Several months ago, Steve Booth asked me if we could set aside one Sunday in November as Consecration Sunday. And I said, of course. What is Consecration Sunday? And he said, well, I've been talking with the generosity team. We thought it would make sense to set aside one Sunday before the new budget year begins and ask people to consecrate themselves and their money to the work of Christ's kingdom, to commit themselves to faithful stewardship in the year ahead. We thought we'd call it Consecration Sunday. And I said, that sounds perfect. I gave it my pastoral stamp of approval and forgot all about it until just a couple of weeks ago when I realized that I would be preaching on Consecration Sunday. What text do you preach on a day like this one? Just for fun, I took a look at the lectionary readings for this day and found that the gospel lesson for this Sunday is the parable of the talents from Matthew 25. Could there be any better text for Consecration Sunday than this one? It's a story about three servants who are trusted with their master's money and asked to be good stewards over it. Two of them do a good job, apparently. The master says to them, well done, good and faithful. But to the third servant, he says, you wicked and lazy slave. I mean, really, all I have to do on a day like this one is retell the story, and at the end of it say, which kind of servant do you want to be? One of those well-done servants or one of those wicked and lazy servants? You decide. This text will practically preach itself. Some servants went out and doubled their money. Others were cast into outer darkness. It will preach itself unless it's not really about money. And I've been wondering about that since I took a closer look at this parable from Matthew 25. On Friday of last week, a friend called, fellow preacher. She said, what are you planning to do with the parable of the talents? And I said, I don't know. I keep reading this text and thinking it may not be about money. And she said, I don't think it is either. But I've already promised to preach a stewardship sermon this Sunday, so I think that's the direction I'm going to take it. And let me tell you, it will go in that direction. There is probably no other parable so well suited to the theme of financial stewardship than this one. It will go that way. But even on this Consecration Sunday, I've been wondering if it might want to go another way, if we gave it free rein and just waited to see what would happen. So let's take a closer look at the parable. And let's begin at the very beginning. Jesus says, for it is as if, and I want to stop him right there. What is as if? What is the antecedent to this pronoun, it? You have to go all the way back to the beginning of the chapter to find out. There Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who come out to wait for the bridegroom. That's what it is. It is the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is as if. Not like a man going on a journey, but as if. I don't even know if that will make a difference, but I'm going to underline it in the text, because when you are interpreting Scripture, you have to read carefully. It is as if a man going on a journey entrusted his property to his servants. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to a third 1 talent, to each according to his ability. Now let me just ask, do you know how much a talent is? Do you? All of you have that in your heads? Or is that why you come to church? So that the pastor can explain to you ancient units of measurement? Right. A talent in Jesus' time was about 75 pounds. And it could be 75 pounds of gold or silver or probably anything else. This master entrusts his first servant with 5 talents. That's 375 pounds of something, I don't know what. Cheddar cheese, peanut butter, Hershey bars, whatever it is, it's valuable. The second servant gets 300 pounds of something, probably silver or gold. And the last servant only gets 75 pounds of something very valuable. And then the master goes away, and these servants begin to do something with what has been entrusted to them. The first one, as you know, goes off and begins trading, buying, selling until he has doubled his money. The second one does the same, but the third one is afraid of losing everything. And so he hides his money in a hole in the ground and waits for the master to return. It takes a long time. Jesus says that the master was gone for a long time. But when he came back, the first thing he wanted to do was settle accounts with his servants. So he called them in and said, "What have you done with what I gave you?" And the first servant can hardly wait to report. "I took those 5 talents. I traded with them. Look, I made 5 talents more." And the master is overjoyed. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have done well. You took a little bit and made a lot more. You've been trusted with a little. I'll put you in charge of a lot more. Enter into the joy of your master." And the second one, encouraged by that, comes and says, "I also took what you gave me, traded it, and doubled your money." And the master says, "Well done, good and faithful. You have been put in charge of a few things. I will put you in charge of even more. Enter into the joy of your master." And then the third servant comes forward. And he clears his throat and says, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, reaping what you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. And so I was afraid. And I took what was yours and hid it in a hole in the ground. Here it is, all of it. I haven't lost a single penny." But the master says, "You wicked and lazy slave, you knew, did you, that I was a harsh man? Reaping what I didn't sow, gathering where I hadn't scattered seed? You should have at least invested the money with the bankers so that I could have had some interest from it when I got back. But as for you, I'm going to take what you have and give it to this one with 10 talents. For to those who have, even more will be given, but to those who have not, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave," he says, "take him and throw him into the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." The kingdom of heaven, Jesus says, is as if a man going on a journey entrusted his property to his servants. He doesn't say that the kingdom of heaven is like that. He says it is as if. And there may be a difference there. Some of the same dynamics are involved in this story. There is joy and there is fear, but the master in this story is not like the master I know, and not like the master you know. This man that Jesus talks about is a harsh man. He reaps where he did not sow. He gathers where he did not scatter seed. He calls his servant wicked and lazy, casts him into the outer darkness. This is not Jesus. And it's important to take note of that when you're reading this parable, because the one just before, about that groom that all the bridesmaids are waiting for, that is probably meant to be a reference to Jesus. And the parable right after this, where the king sits on his throne, when he's come in his glory with all his angels, dividing the sheep from the goats, that is probably meant to be Jesus. But this man in the middle, this harsh man, this cruel master, is not my master. Is he yours? I've been thinking about that one line in this parable where the master says, "Enter into my joy." and wondering what his joy would look like. The master in this parable, what kind of parties would he throw at his house? And for some reason, all I can imagine is men sitting around a table playing high-stakes poker, smoking big fancy cigars and tossing back shots of whiskey while beautiful women stand by in sequined dresses and a live band plays. Now that is what a party looks like at that master's house. That's what his joy looks like. People who are willing to take risks, to put it all out there, to make as much money as they can. That's his joy. But there is this other master whose joy is another matter. I've been thinking about what it is that Jesus has trusted into our care and what he wants us to do with it. Because if Jesus is our master, we want to do with what he has given us whatever it is that will give him joy. He's given us his church, hasn't he? And I've been thinking about that. Been thinking about this building and grounds, for example. He has put all of this into our hands and trusted us with it. If the other master, the one from the parable, showed up and said, "What have you done with what you've been trusted with?" we could say to him, we've done a lot. This building, these grounds, back in 1928, they weren't nearly worth as much as they are now. We have doubled, tripled, maybe quadrupled the value of this estate. What do you think about that? But I have the feeling when Jesus comes, he won't be interested in that answer. What have you done with the church, he might say. And we could say, we have preached the gospel here. We have sung the praises of God in this place. We have welcomed the stranger and the widow and the orphan. We have made disciples of every nation. That's what we've been doing with your church. And he might say, well done. Well done, good and faithful. But the church, of course, is not only this building, it is also all of you. It is us. We are the church, as I regularly tell you. And Jesus might want to know, what have you done with what I have trusted to you? That's a good question. Over all these generations that Lynn just mentioned, what have we been doing with what our Master has given us? And have we used it in a way that will make him proud? I've wondered about that. There is his church. He's trusted us with that. He's also trusted us with his mission. And if you will, for just a moment, accept the idea that his mission is to bring heaven to earth. That when he asked his disciples to pray that God's kingdom would come, that God's will would be done on earth as it is in heaven, he meant it. He meant them to pray for it. He meant them to work for it. That is the mission he has given to us. We've been trusted with it. And he might ask the question, have you used what I have given you in a way that will give me joy? Have you fulfilled this mission in a way that will make me proud? We need to think about three things as we look at this parable. Who is our master? What has he trusted us with? And can we use it in a way that will bring him joy? Who is our master? Jesus. What has he entrusted to our care? His church, his mission. How can we use it in a way that will bring him joy? Let me give you just one example. When I interviewed with this church 7 years ago, I spent a whole weekend talking to some of you, to the search team, to the staff. At some point in that long weekend, someone took me on a tour of our facilities. And we ended up down on the basement level, and this same someone said to me, "This is where we have our shower ministry." And I said, "Stop right there. Did you say shower ministry?" "Yes. This is where we have our shower ministry." Because at the church I had been serving in D.C., I had worked for 7 years to establish a shower ministry. I had looked to see if there was a place inside the building where we could put showers. I had looked to see if there was a place outside the building where we could put showers. I came to the church council again and again with fresh proposals. Maybe the shower ministry could go here. Maybe it could go there. Every time, my proposal was greeted with a resounding no. With all due respect to that congregation, I believe those people were controlled by fear, just like the third servant in this parable. They loved that church. It was a beautiful building, and I think they were afraid that if we let into our building the kinds of people who would benefit most from a shower ministry, and you know who I'm talking about, that somehow those people would desecrate our beautiful space. No, they said, for whatever reason, let's not start a shower ministry. So when I came to First Baptist Richmond to interview, I wasn't at all sure that I was going to come. I was looking around, thinking, asking questions, praying, wondering if this was the place God might be leading me, till we ended up in the basement. And someone said, "This is where we have our shower ministry." When the chair of the search team asked me later why I said yes, I told him the truth. You had me at shower ministry. Because I believe. I believe this is the mission with which Christ has entrusted us, to be His church and to do His work in the world, and to do it in a way that will give Him joy. I believe it does give Jesus joy when people can come in off the streets, hot, tired, dirty, sweaty, and find brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ who are offering them a place to get clean and to eat food and to take some clean clothes with them when they go. There's something about that that is so much like the Spirit of Christ Himself. I believe it gives Him joy. In this parable, one servant is paralyzed by fear. He is afraid that he might lose his master's money, and so he takes it and hides it in a hole. It makes his master angry. But the other two servants take great risks in order to make more money, and it brings their master joy. I think he would have commended them even if they'd lost it all, because they were willing to risk it all. What Christ wants from us is not more money, but more ministry. He wants us to work with Him to bring the kingdom of heaven to Richmond, Virginia, and beyond. And every time that happens, it gives Him joy. Can I tell you what gives me joy? When someone comes to me and says, "Pastor, I've been thinking about what I might do to bring heaven to earth, and I have an idea." Sometimes it is a tiny idea, the smallest thing you could imagine. But it comes out of that person's imagination and out of that person's heart and out of that person's prayers. This is what I want to do to bring heaven to earth. And let me tell you, as a pastor, it gives me joy. I believe it gives Jesus joy when we take what He has entrusted to us and use it in a way that will make Him proud. When He can't wait to say to us, "Well done, good and faithful servants. Enter into the joy of your master," not that other one. Will you do something risky today? When it comes time to turn in your pledge card, would you be willing to write a number on that card that will stretch you a bit? Will you consecrate yourself and your money to Christ's mission in a way that will bring Him joy? It's not about more money. It's about more ministry. We're going to water the roots of this tree today, the tree we call First Baptist Church. Just a moment, we're going to stand and sing a hymn, and I will invite you to bring your pledge cards forward and put them in these watering cans down here at the front of the sanctuary and up there in the balcony. We want to water this big old tree called First Baptist Church so that it can continue bearing fruit for the city, the region, the nation, and the world. We have an opportunity to do something today that will give Jesus joy.